Beautiful furniture does not solve the core problem because when the layout is wrong, the room won't feel good, no matter how considered the pieces are. And the layout is almost always wrong, not because the furniture is wrong, but because the logic behind placing it was never established. So in this video, I'm going through 8 specific living room arrangements that designers actually use, why each one works, and exactly how to apply the same thinking to your space, from the most common to the most counterintuitive. Welcome back to my channel, guys. I'm Nina, your bestie, celebrity interior designer, and I'm really excited to get into this topic. If you're new here, please remember to subscribe. We are never going to grow unless you guys give us some love. Honest professional design advice and insight is what we do every Sunday. Let's talk about what is the most important topic, I believe, in interior design, which is layout. Because you could literally have the best, most exclusive, most beautiful pieces that you've sourced from all over the world. You could bring them into your home. If the layout is wrong, your room looks like garbage. Sorry to say, layout is everything. So first, we're going to talk about the floating arrangement, my absolute favorite. In fact, I was just on a call 3 seconds before this, telling somebody that their room layout was completely wrong because they were just receiving furniture. It was a friend of mine, and I was telling her what to do. So this is the one that makes people the most nervous, and I understand that. And it is also the one that, when done correctly, makes a room look most professional. The instinct, especially in a room with nice furniture, is to push everything toward the walls. That just kills me, guys. I just want to cry when I see that. I feel like I have shouted it off of every rooftop, but still, to this moment, to this day, to 5 minutes ago, I'm still seeing people push furniture against the wall. I don't know why. Please don't do it. I beg you. I will be rolling over in my grave when I'm dead and you guys are doing this. Just remember, I will be staring at you from the grave because you guys are probably younger than me, and I will be criticizing. Okay, what it actually does is line the perimeter with furniture and leave a void in the center that reads an empty rather than spacious room, and it just starts to feel like a waiting room. Yup, your dental office, your doctor's office, or your home. We don't want that. The floating arrangement does the opposite. Sofa pulled into the room, chairs angled inward, coffee table centered, rugs anchoring the whole group. Everything oriented towards each other rather than toward the walls. The middle of the room becomes the room. The walls become the background. Do not be afraid of this. Your friends are going to say, "Are you an interior designer? Or did you hire somebody very well known to do your designing?" Because that is what happens instantly. Now, why does this feel so different? Because it creates a destination. When you walk into a room and there's a clear, composed group of furniture in the center, the eye has somewhere to go. The room reads as occupied, as lived in, as purposefully arranged. When everything is pushed to the walls, the eye travels around the perimeter and there is nothing to land on, literally nothing. Now, the thing that makes people hesitate is the gap between the back of the sofa and the wall. Behind it, it just makes people stop in their tracks and think there's something wrong. No, it's a great place for the cat to transit. The gap, most of you think, is wasted space. Not at all, because it is not. It is what makes the arrangement read as intentional. And once a rug anchors the group, the furniture reads as composed, regardless of where it sits in the room. The floating arrangement, by the way, works in small rooms. I don't want to hear that you guys are going to tell me, well, I have a tiny room and I don't have a choice. Yes, you do, because even 5 inches makes a difference. So the scale of the furniture is what's going to change in a smaller room, not the composition. The floating arrangement works in almost every room size, and no matter what, trust me, believe me, and I will be forever grateful that you did that in your room, in your homes, because I want everyone to live a beautiful life. All right, let's move on to number 2, the floating sofa with a console table behind it. Now, if you're lucky enough to have more space, well, I'm going to give you another option. A variation on the following arrangement actually solves the one thing people struggle with most, which is the back of the sofa facing sort of an open space with nothing behind it. And most people see a sofa from behind and instinctively feel something is unresolved. And they're right. It does feel a little bit off. A sofa floating in the middle of a room, nothing behind it, can feel a little off, sort of off-putting in a way. Not off-putting, but just off. The answer is not to push it back against the wall, of course, but the answer is perhaps a console table that's placed behind it, but it has to look good. It has to be gorgeous console table. It can't just be some ugly thing. And you don't want to over-clutter that table either and create a visual mess. So the gap matters. The console is not touching the sofa. It is not a sofa table in the traditional sense. It just sits a foot behind the table, and it allows you to have sort of an anchor in the room. A lamp on one end is always great, perhaps a considered object, some form of design and decor, but not overly done. This does two things at once. It gives the floating sofa a finished rear edge, which is important, and it adds depth. Sofa in front, console table behind, wall beyond, three planes where there used to be only one. And in an open plan space, the console table acts as a room divider. It defines where the living room zone ends without a wall or partition, purely through furniture. No structural work, just placement, and a piece of furniture most people already own. For example, I could easily have a table back here. The reason I don't, it's because I hate clutter and I don't like to over furniture. Plus, I believe the view is nice enough not to necessitate one. But as you can see, I have at least 1, 2, 3, 4 feet behind me. This is a rather large room, so I understand. But if this room were half its size, there would still be behind the sofa. All right, let's talk about sofa plus one armchair, another great favorite of mine. Most underused layout that I see out there, and it is truly a great combination. And in my experience, the one that makes the rooms feel very, very curated. Most people default to either sofa alone, which leaves a room feeling sort of unresolved, or two matching sofas facing each other, which I love, but which can read a little bit formal in a way that does not suit everyday homes or a family room. Sofa plus one armchair sits between those two. Less rigid than two sofas, more composed than a sofa in isolation. The chair should not match the sofa. This is the most important thing that people get wrong. A chair is clearly from the same set, reads as a package deal. But even if you were to buy from a completely different set and it mimics the shape and somewhat close in fabric, that isn't good either. You need to pick a chair as different as you possibly can to the sofa. That is where the tension lies, and that is where good design execution happens. Each piece was chosen for the room, not because of the set. Placement matters as much as the chair itself. Directly across from the sofa reads as wrong. At a right angle, not parallel, not perpendicular, reads as conversational and relaxed. So the angle creates what I think is an invitation. The arrangement suggests that people are supposed to talk to one another here, not just a parallel facing the same direction as if you were in an office, as if you were in a doctor's office and you were going to have a one-on-one with the doctor. So this is the layout I find myself returning to mostly in smaller living rooms and smaller apartments in more dense populated areas such as New York, Chicago, and the rest. Spaces that could technically hold two sofas but would be overwhelmed by them would work much better with the one sofa, the one chair. I'm sorry, I am so distracted by this new cream that I put on my hands, and it's like an eau de parfum eau de parfum cream. And since you guys can't see it, I love this. Am I crazy? My team is like, no, this is not a vlog. This is the red elevator. Anyway, I love it so much. And I know this is completely out of place, and my team is like shaking their head going, what are you doing? I am going to link this. It's a beautiful milk. It's like a milky perfume, but it's so subtle for those of you that don't like to wear perfume. Like me, I don't like heavy perfumes. I like very light or this creamy, milky thing. So I'm going to link this and you will thank me. It is so delicious. It has a little bit of vanilla in it. So if you guys love vanilla, but it's even better than that. Okay, I always love to share things that intrigue me, not only intrigue me, but stop me in my tracks, because I come across so many products. I get gifted so many things. This is a good one. All right, That'll be in the description section for you guys. Moving on back to interior design and away from my vlogging style of content. By the way, that reminds me, we also have a vlog. Crazy as it is, we have a channel called The Red Elevator where we talk about interior design. I'm gonna say this very quickly. And then we've got a vlog channel that does everything behind the scenes, what I wear, what I spray on myself, trips, travel, shopping, food, restaurants, hotels, etc. We will link that as well. Back to what's important. Number 4 layout that I really love, which is the conversation first. What does that mean? Well, here's a question most people have never seriously asked about their living room. What does this room do? What is it actually for? Not what does it need to contain, a sofa, a TV, a coffee table, but really what is this for? The answer is spending time with people. Then the layout should be built around conversation, and almost no living rooms are. None of the living rooms I walk into that I have not personally designed, or most of them, really honestly, are built around the television. Every chair faces it. Every seat in the room has sightline to the screen because the screen is what the layout was organized around first. And the room is functionally private cinema. And when no one is watching television, it is a strange place to just visit. So the conversation first layout takes the television out of the primary position. I'm not saying change your room and remove the television and turn it into a conversation room. What I'm saying is keep the television, but change the layout of that room, making the television a secondary component. Why? Because most of the time when you are watching television, you will find your spot, you will be happy. But every other time that you are in the room, and I would also argue that most people are no longer watching television collectively as a family unless it's a sporting event, and everybody's on their own devices. So you need to have a room that's multi-purposeful, even if it's the den, even if it's the family room. So let me get back to what I'm trying to say here. The conversation first layout takes the TV out, as I mentioned. So what you can do is you can have 2 sofas facing each other or a sofa facing 2 chairs with the TV on a side wall or at an angle, or it can face one of the sofas and not the other, because chances are if you had a family room, you would normally only have 1 sofa facing it anyway. So there's nothing wrong with putting 2 sofas facing each other and 1 television behind the 1 sofa. And that's not odd. It's not weird because typically you would only have 1 sofa anyway. But now you've turned this room into a multitask room, which not only looks better visually, it doesn't put the focus on the ugly television, which we never want to do. And it automatically turns into a great room where people can sit and have a conversation. The shift this creates is significant. When you sit in a room arranged for conversation, the seating invites eye contact and proximity. When you sit in a room arranged around a television, the default posture is, ooh, television. And nobody wants to see that. All right, quick pause. If you are looking at your living room right now and have many dilemmas regarding the arrangement and the layout, fret not. Your interior design bestie is here to help you. We are one of the top 40 experts in the country. I am very, very honored to be in that list, and it's done by dollar value only, guys. This is not just some prize they give certain interior designers for fun. Of all the interior designers across the country, we are booked more than any other ones. We are in the top 40 list, and I bet you we are very high up on that list, especially because we are booked night and day and openings are tight. But if you need consultation, we are here for you. It's very simple. You just click the link in the description section, a Zoom calendar pops up, and next thing you know, we are on a one-on-one together, 25 minutes, 60 minutes, forever, whatever works for you. I am here to help you with layouts, color choices, design choices, furniture placement, construction, you name it, I'm here for it. I've even done interior designers who've called me and wanted to sort of vet their projects with me just to get a second look at it, because we all need a second opinion. I am here for that as well. All right, let's continue to our number 5th most important and most interesting layout, which is the fireplace layout. And of course, where I have kept my best for last, and that's going to be number 8. So for in the number 5th position, a fireplace is the strongest architectural anchor in a room. And if we're lucky enough to have one, we definitely want to highlight the fireplace. The most common mistake, though, that I see is fireplace on one wall and a TV on the opposite wall, sofa pointing at the television and with its back to the fireplace. And then the fireplace becomes sort of a backdrop, something to style the mantle around, while the room's most powerful focal point is completely ignored. When a room has a fireplace, the fireplace is the focal point, regardless, end of story. Not the television. The sofa should face the fireplace. Chairs should flank it. The coffee table should sit centered between them. Now, with that said, you will notice in this room that I am sitting on a sofa, yet the fireplace is to my right. Why? Well, because this is a large, long, rectangular living room, and facing the fireplace with the sofa, which I had done in the past, and sometimes I changed my mind, didn't give me enough space, and the positioning of the room really is meant to have the elongated sofa in the longer direction of the room. Plus, I love looking at my fireplace from the right. So this is also a very, very good layout. So back to what I was talking about. The TV is really where most people get this layout incorrectly. Mounting it directly above the fireplace is one of the most common mistakes in living room design. It puts the screen at a height that is ergonomically uncomfortable to watch for any length of time, and it forces the two focal points of the room to sort of compete on the same wall with each other, and you end up designing around both of them and really serving neither. With that said, there's a caveat. I have been many group discussions and I've had many people contact me about this. Well, I have no other place to put the television. I know you hate putting the television above the fireplace. What can I do? What can I do? And in certain instances, I will have to say that we do need to put the TV above the fireplace because there's absolutely no other wall. If there is no other wall whatsoever, then in that case, if you have to have a television in the room, although I say bring it on a rolly, which is a very good idea, then I will allow it. But you also have mechanisms now, which I have shown on my stories before, that will transport the TV sort of forward and down, and it lowers the television to eye level and so forth, and then you can hide the television, but that's very complicated. So with that said, a solution that I have been giving a lot of clients lately, even in very, very high-end projects with very large homes, is roll in your television. What I have loved seeing more of recently is this whole concept of a rolling television and the fact that it swivels and it's mobile and can be hidden. You could even hide it in your garage. I don't care where you hide it, just hide it and then bring it out when need be. TV is not the point. When the fireplace is lit and the screen has been moved out of the sight line, the room looks exactly as it should. Resolved, calm, the fireplace doing what it always is supposed to do, is have that beautiful fire and the crackling during wintertime. And when you want to watch something, then the television rolls out at that point. It gets positioned right at the height that you are comfortable with, and you can watch your programs. It is simple. It is also practical solution that most people have not really thought about. And when I suggested it to my clients, they were mesmerized by the fact, even though, these are highly educated, very sophisticated clients, they just hadn't thought about it. And that's really why I wanted to make a video about this as well. It is definitely something that you can consider, and they are, in fact, can be very large, these televisions. It doesn't have to be some small, tiny little thing. Why does a fireplace first arrangement feel so different regardless? Because a fireplace draws people toward it in a way a screen doesn't. It is permanent, it is centered, it is architectural, and rooms arranged around a fireplace feel settled. The arrangement has a reason. Rooms arranged around a TV really feel contingent, like the furniture just happened to end up that way. Number 6, the 2-zone layout. Now, in a large enough room to hold more than one function, the most common mistake is trying to fit everything into a single arrangement. Sofa, desk, reading chair, television, all in the same zone, all competing for the same space. The room ends up being unclear about what it is. The 2-zone layout makes a decision. The room is divided into 2 distinct areas, each with its own rug, its own purpose, its own furniture group, and those areas are allowed to be separated. Seating zone here, reading zone or work area there. And guess who does the dividing? It's the rug. Not a wall, not a partition, 2 rugs of different sizes, but of the same width in different positions, each anchoring the own group of furniture. The boundary between zones is implied, not physical, and yet the brain reads it clearly that this is one space and this is another, and it works like a charm. What this achieves is specifically a room with two different zones, and it's perfect. It's the best way. The primary seating zone is perhaps for the television and the conversation, and the reading corner or an office or a dining, whatever it may be, is for one person to be alone. Each area is fully designed to be contained, and it becomes really its own defined space. The mistake people make with two zone layouts is placing the zones too close together or choosing furniture that visually bleeds between them. Each zone needs enough clearance that it reads as a distinct separate group. The gap between the zones is as important as the zones themselves. All right, number 7, back to back. This is the arrangement most people have never considered and is the one that makes the most sense in a genuinely large room. I particularly love this one. I feel like it's very hotel, and if I had a home big enough, trust me, I'd have a back-to-back. So the instinct in a large room is to create one large giant seating group, a generous sectional, a gigantic coffee table, and everything becomes oversized and strange. The problem is that one group, no matter how large, can still feel lost in a very large room. It sits in the center and the room surrounds it. It's undefined and it's like, here we are. Can you hear me? Yes. I don't know why I did that. Sorry, guys. I'm being slightly crazy today. The back-to-back arrangement places two seating groups in the same room. This is what I call the Naomi Watts layout. Why do I call it that? Well, because I talked about this layout many years ago when Naomi Watts did it in her New York apartment. We'll throw the photo in here, and it's the back-to-back room. And it got so much attention, and so now I just call it that. It makes more sense. And you guys will notice in this room, or room similar to it, one group faces the fireplace or TV wall, one group faces the windows or a piece of art, and the focal point is really that sort of center, and it can be very beautiful to walk into a back-to-back sofa situation, as you can see. This works because it fills a room with intention in two directions simultaneously. There is no undefined zone that has not been addressed. So many of you have giant living rooms. I see it over and over again in large spaces. Large homes, sort of the large farmhouses, the large modern homes that are being built, they are being built ad nauseum, and therefore this is an arrangement if you have a large space. Each seating group has a clear orientation and purpose. The room feels very resolved in a way that one large group, no matter how generous, can achieve. Now, the space between the two sofas can be bridged by a console table, a low credenza, a circular, or it can just be left open. The key is that both groups feel related. Your sofas can be identical or not. It really depends on what you're deciding to do for the rest of the space. But remember that these spaces are related. They should have the same palette, same design language, and even though they face away from each other, they can be very different, but they need to have a cohesive language between them. Finally, the number 8. Okay, number 8. The reason I call this my favorite, it's not because technically it's my favorite layout, but it is my favorite layout to solve because it is a problem across the board, from here all the way from California to the East Coast, all the way down Route 66. A lot of you have this problem, and I love solving issues. This is the arrangement that matters most in open plan spaces, which so many of you have, and the one most open plan living areas never achieve. This is my pet peeve, shall we say, and hence I like to find a solution for it. In a true open plan space where the living area flows directly into the kitchen and the dining room with no walls separating them, the challenge is not filling the space, it is carving a defined zone out of it. Most open plan living rooms never quite feel like rooms. They feel like the non-kitchen part of a large floor, if that makes sense. You've got a kitchen here, you've got a living room down there, you've got a dining room here. It is very difficult. The room within a room solves this with 3 elements: a large sofa, a rug, and a console behind the sofa. It's quite simple if you think about it. The rug defines a zone. It tells the eye exactly where the living area begins and ends. The sofa, placed with its back to the open space rather than floating aimlessly, creates a physical edge And the console behind the sofa with a deliberate gap between them creates a visual back wall where no architectural wall exists. Together, these three things create enclosure. The brain responds to enclosure the way it responds to shelter, a sense of backing, of defined perimeter, of knowing where the space ends, as calm and settled. An open plan living area without enclosure, no matter how well furnished, always has a quality of exposure to it. The room within a room is how you solve that with furniture alone. No walls required, no dividers needed. The logic behind every single one of these layouts basically is the same. A layout decision should have a reason, not a preference, a reason grounded in how people actually move, how the eye reads a composition, and how a space is supposed to feel to live in every single day. If this was useful, please take a tiny moment of your existence to click subscribe, because it is absolutely free to do so. You won't be bombarded by emails or anything like that. It just gives the algorithm a little push for my videos to reach more people. And after all, we're just trying to help people have and live a more gorgeous existence. I love interior design. It's my passion. I could talk about it all day, all night, but I'm not going to bore you forever. I just want to thank you for joining us this Sunday on the Red Elevator. And why not share this video and let me know if any of these floor layouts are actually something that you're going to change, or that you prefer, or that you wish you had. Thank you again for joining us, and we can't wait to see you again in your homes, in your living rooms every Sunday. Thank you for trusting in us. Love you guys, and we'll see you next week.